Diana, she did that to you too, didn't she? I don't do that. But wait a minute. What girlfriend said that I eat those lashes? I'm scared of her.
From the moment that it was decided by Barry that Diane would take over all leads and that Florence and I would no longer sing lead, that problem was there. I shared that story with everyone because I love her, and I love her in spite of herself, because of herself.
Diana Ross didn't just climb to the top. She systematically destroyed every woman who dared to shine in her shadow. From Supreme Sister Mary Wilson, who she violently shoved aside during their reunion performance as millions watched in horror.
There is not a relationship between Diane and I. There has not been one between the two of us for a long time.
To the bold and fearless diva, Patti LaBelle, whose clothes she stole and whose singer she poached.
Did y'all really have beef with the Supremes?
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't expect it like that.
It wasn't the Supremes, it was Diana and myself.
Right.
Back in the day.
To the fallen original Supreme, Florence Ballard, who she had thrown out of a party while 7 months pregnant. Diana's hit list reads like a who's who of music royalty. Women whose only crime was being too talented to ignore. Here are the 7 women who crossed the Motown Queen and paid the ultimate price. The lights dimmed on Broadway and Sheryl Lee Ralph took center stage as Dina Jones in Dreamgirls. What should have been the role of a lifetime quickly became a living nightmare, and Diana Ross was the reason why. From the moment the musical opened, everyone whispered the same thing. This was Diana's story. The rise and fall of a girl group, the lead singer who gets pushed to the front, the behind-the-scenes drama. It was the Supremes all over again, and Diana Ross was not having it. There was one thing that I was told in the development of Dreamgirls. I could love Diana Ross as much as I want, but if I played Diana Ross, we would get sued, Ralph revealed to Oprah Winfrey years later. The creators had to walk on eggshells, crafting a story that was obviously inspired by the Supremes while legally protecting themselves from Diana's wrath. But the real drama wasn't happening in boardrooms. It was playing out in New York's Russian tea room. Ralph, excited to meet her idol, spotted Diana across the restaurant. This was her chance to explain that Dreamgirls wasn't meant to hurt anyone, that it was just art inspired by life. I just got up and walked over to her, and she turned around in the way that you could smell her perfume. It was beautiful, and the smile left her face looking at me, Ralph recalled. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. She said, "I know who you are," and I was just like, okay. And she turned around, and she was gone. That cold shoulder lasted for years. Diana couldn't separate the actress from the character, the art from what she saw as personal attack. Every time Ralph performed, every standing ovation, every rave review felt like salt in Diana's wounds. The woman who had conquered Motown, movies, and music couldn't handle seeing her story, even a fictionalized version, told by someone else. The feud finally ended when one of Diana's sons intervened, essentially forcing his mother to face the situation. When they finally talked, it was like watching ice melt. She said, "Girl, that was such a long time ago. I understand now," Ralph remembered. But the damage had been done. Years of cold shoulders over a Broadway show that dared to tell a story Diana thought belonged to her alone. If Diana Ross had an arch nemesis, it was Patti LaBelle.
Diana, she did that to you too, didn't she? I don't do that. But wait a minute. What girlfriend said that I eat those lashes? I'm scared of her.
Their feud lasted an incredible 38 years, built on stolen styles, stolen singers, and enough bad blood to fill the Mississippi River. It started in the 1960s when both groups were clawing their way to the top. Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells were known for their outrageous fashion. Feathers, sparkles, big hair, and costumes that made them impossible to ignore. But then Diana noticed, and Diana wanted what she saw. People used to come to the Apollo all the time and sell hot clothes like Gucci and all of that stuff, and it was worth thousands. I brought all the clothes, so I had moments with the Supremes at the show, Patti explained years later. She'd spend her hard-earned money on these exclusive outfits, only to see the Supremes wearing suspiciously similar looks just weeks later. But the real betrayal came in 1967. Picture this. Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells are in Cleveland, ready to take the stage, when Patti realizes there are only 3 members backstage. Cindy Birdsong, one of her core singers, had vanished, literally jumped ship to join the Supremes as Florence Ballard's replacement.
Cindy Birdsong had gone to take Florence Ballard's place with the Supremes. They had been rehearsing her for months, and that night she left us.
The betrayal cut deep. Patti could forgive Cindy. She understood the lure of Motown's money and fame. But Diana was the one pulling the strings, the one who'd orchestrated the theft of her group member.
So she stole Cindy Birdsong from me.
For nearly 4 decades, Patti carried this grudge like a badge of honor. So instead of me beating her physically, I beat her verbally. Whenever I got a chance, I would say, I hate her. The feud became the stuff of R&B legend, with both camps feeding the fire through interviews and third-party whispers. The wall finally came down at Oprah's Legends Ball in 2005. Fate, or Oprah's seating chart, put them at the same luncheon table. We sat at the luncheon table for like 3 hours, and something magical happened. The anger that had simmered for 38 years finally cooled. They exchanged numbers, laughed about old times, and put one of music's longest feuds to rest. In any case, some betrayals come from enemies. The ones that really hurt come from family. And Mary Wilson wasn't just Diana's groupmate. She was supposed to be her sister. They'd started as equals in The Primettes, 3 teenage girls from Detroit's housing projects with nothing but dreams and determination. But somewhere between Where Did Our Love Go and international stardom, everything changed. Diana stopped being one of 3 and started being the one.
From the moment that it was decided by Barry that Diane would take over all leads and that Florence and I would no longer sing lead, that problem was there.
Mary Wilson later claimed that Diana didn't just let the spotlight come to her. She chased it sometimes at the expense of others. She painted a picture of Diana as a master manipulator, someone who manipulated situations behind the scenes to push herself further ahead. Mary had spent years watching decisions tilt in one direction, toward Diana. Whether it was costumes, press interviews, or stage positions, she began to feel like every choice made within the group was designed to spotlight Ross. And when Berry Gordy officially renamed the group Diana Ross and the Supremes, it was more than a title change. It felt like an erasure. Mary and Florence weren't just losing prominence. They were being reframed as background singers to someone they'd once considered an equal. But it was during the 1983 Motown 25 special that their fractured relationship fully unraveled in public. What was meant to be a celebratory reunion turned into an unforgettable moment of humiliation, broadcast to millions. Mary would later describe how the performance of Someday We'll Be Together had gone completely sideways. Diana appeared confused, and instead of standing in formation, she kept moving closer to the audience. Mary and Cindy instinctively followed, thinking it was part of the choreography they'd agreed on. But after the 3rd shift, Diana abruptly turned and shoved Mary aside. The gasp from the audience said everything. It wasn't just a push, it was a power move. And according to Mary, Diana looked momentarily shaken, caught off guard that Mary hadn't just moved out of her way. With the performance unraveling, Mary began to sing, lead to keep the show moving. But Diana, now flustered, started speaking to Berry Gordy in the audience instead. When Mary called for Berry to join them on stage, Diana reportedly grabbed the microphone and yanked it away, insisting the matter had been taken care of. What followed was chaos. Smokey Robinson was rushed on stage to smooth things over, and the reunion quickly dissolved into an awkward group finale with other Motown artists. The headlines the next day weren't about music, they were about drama, and it was Diana Ross who gave the media the catfight they had been waiting for. Mary never forgot it. She had thought, maybe naively, that they had reached a point where peace was possible. Instead, she was reminded that some wounds don't heal. They just stay hidden until the spotlight finds them again. Years later, when Mary Wilson passed in 2021, Diana's public tribute was short and respectful, but noticeably cold. For fans who had followed their story for decades, it felt like a final confirmation. Whatever once existed between them, sisterhood, friendship, loyalty, had long been left behind. When Gladys Knight and the Pips signed to Motown in the mid-1960s, they thought they were joining a family. Instead, they walked into a war zone where Diana Ross was the general and everyone else was collateral damage. Gladys had something Diana couldn't stand, a voice that could genuinely rival her own.
Well, I don't want to know.
Where Diana was polished and pop-friendly, Gladys was pure power, raw emotion, and undeniable talent. And Berry Gordy's Golden Girl didn't like the competition.
When we got off the stage, we had the same road manager, and he said, Mr. Gordy's on the phone for you. I said, Mr. Gordy, I said, he think we doing good out here? You know, we just wanted to do our best.
The tension exploded during a Motown tour in the late 60s. Gladys Knight and the Pips were scheduled to open for the Supremes, but something went wrong at the last minute. Just before they could perform, they reportedly received a call from Berry Gordy, who said,
But you giving my star act a little bit of trouble. You know, what's up with that? I said, we're just doing our thing. That's all. He said, well, I think you guys are coming home.
Gladys, confused and professional, replied simply, well, Mr. Gordy, that's not what we're about. You know, we're just doing our show. But it was too late. They were pulled from the tour and sent home, leaving everyone wondering what had really happened backstage. The whispers started immediately. Several Motown insiders have said over the years that Diana used her influence with Berry Gordy to control who shared the stage with her. Whether it was protecting her brand or simply refusing to be upstaged, Diana allegedly made it known that certain artists, including Gladys Knight, were not welcome to perform on the same bill. For Gladys, it was a betrayal that cut to the bone. She'd come to Motown expecting artistic collaboration and found political manipulation instead. She said Diana simply did not like her voice and that the atmosphere at Motown made it easy for these misunderstandings and resentment to grow. The Cold War lasted 37 years. Two of the greatest voices in music history reduced to avoiding each other at industry events and speaking in careful, diplomatic language when asked about their relationship. It wasn't until 2008, during a special tribute event, that they finally hugged it out in public. But by then, decades of mistrust had already cemented their place as one of music's most bitter rivalries. When Madonna burst onto the scene in the 1980s, she did something unthinkable. She dared to challenge Diana Ross's throne. Two Detroit-born divas, both masters of reinvention, both absolutely convinced they were the greatest of all time. This was bound to explode. Madonna often cited Diana as an early influence, but the admiration was strictly one way.
Well, when I was growing up, all the Motown music I listened to, Diana Ross was so real.
Where Madonna was wild, rebellious, and boundary-pushing, Diana represented the old guard, polished, controlled, and image-conscious. They were oil and water, fire and ice. The moment that crystallized their mutual disdain came during a television interview when Diana was asked about Madonna. Diana's expression immediately changed, and the host, sensing the displeasure, replied with, "I'm sensing not." But then, Diana opened up, and what she said shocked not just the host, but the entire audience. She said, "Well, my kids went up and asked her for an autograph, and she was not nice, and I won't forget it, so that's it. That's how I feel about that." The message was crystal clear. Diana Ross was not impressed by the material girl, and she wanted everyone to know it. This wasn't just about personal dislike. It was about legacy, respect, and who deserved to wear the crown. Magazine covers asked who was the bigger icon, and television specials debated who had the bigger legacy. The media loved pitting them against each other, and both women seemed quietly aware that the industry only had room for one queen at a time. What made their feud particularly fascinating was its complete lack of resolution. They never performed together. They were never seen laughing at award shows or embracing in tributes. In fact, they were rarely seen together at all. It was a silence that spoke volumes. Two legends who simply couldn't exist in the same space without the air crackling with tension. Madonna thrived on controversy and confrontation, the exact opposite of everything Diana had been taught at Motown's charm school. And Diana, who'd spent decades perfecting the art of graceful supremacy, couldn't understand or respect Madonna's in-your-face approach to stardom. When two queens of different kingdoms meet, there's bound to be tension. Diana Ross ruled Motown's polished pop empire, while Aretha Franklin commanded the raw, emotional territory of soul. Their rivalry was less about personal drama and more about artistic respect, or the lack thereof. Industry insiders have long speculated that Aretha Franklin didn't fully respect Diana Ross's vocal ability. For Aretha, who came from gospel roots and carried church power in every note, Diana's controlled, pop-friendly style felt manufactured. Aretha viewed Ross as more of a performer than a true singer. The difference in their approaches was like night and day. Diana Ross was the refined, glamorous pop diva who led the Supremes to worldwide fame under the polished guidance of Motown. Her style was elegant, her performances graceful, and her voice soft and controlled. Meanwhile, Aretha Franklin, on the other hand, came from gospel roots and carried that raw soul power into every note she sang. She wasn't trying to be polished. She was trying to be honest. This fundamental difference created an unspoken tension that played out in public appearances and award shows. For Aretha, Diana represented everything that was wrong with commercialized soul music, the triumph of image over substance, polish over passion. For Diana, Aretha's raw, emotional style probably felt undisciplined compared to Motown's carefully crafted perfectionism. The rivalry never exploded into public warfare, but it simmered beneath the surface for decades. Two legends who'd carved out different pieces of musical history, always aware that comparisons were inevitable and always slightly uncomfortable with where those comparisons might lead. When Aretha passed away in 2018, Diana's tribute was graceful and diplomatic. She called Franklin a wonderful human being and one of the greatest voices ever. But for those who'd watched their relationship for decades, it felt like the end of a very long, very quiet standoff. Of all Diana's musical enemies, none cut deeper than Florence Ballard, because Florence wasn't just a rival, she was family. She was there from the beginning, before the fame, before the money, before Diana became Miss Ross. And that made her betrayal the most devastating of all. Florence Ballard founded the Primettes. She gave them their name. She was the original voice, the powerhouse singer who could belt out Barbra Streisand standards, while Diana was still learning to project. But when Berry Gordy looked at the three teenage girls from Detroit's projects, he saw only one star, and it wasn't Florence. The systematic erasure of Florence Ballard from Supreme's history is one of music's cruelest stories. Despite being one of the biggest groups in the world, they were barely making enough money to live on. And Florence Ballard, in particular, seemed to feel the weight of this reality more than anyone. In a 1966 interview, when the interviewer questioned how much they were paid, the answer was shocking. $50 a week.
Do you get an allowance every week?
Yes, we get an allowance.
How much did you get? Come on, tell me.
$100 a week.
You get
Although it was cut down to $50. Excuse me, correction.
It was cut down to $50 a week?
Our manager cut it down. Is that awful?
While Motown raked in millions from their success, the women who created the music were struggling to survive. But it was the personal humiliation that really broke Florence's spirit. During that same interview, the interviewer made a comment about her weight, as if to suggest that she needed more money just to eat.
Procedure, is it, Florence?
That's right. I'll be losing weight soon.
It was unnecessary, unkind, and deeply embarrassing. Yet, neither Diana nor Mary stepped in to defend her. The final betrayal came at Berry Gordy's mansion. Florence, 7 months pregnant with twins, attended a party where she'd been told she was welcome. But the moment Diana saw her, everything changed. Florence felt a tug on her coat, Diana trying to get her attention. The confrontation was brief but telling.
I had on this long fall, and I felt somebody jerking, and I turned around, Diane pulled the fall. And so I looked at her, and I told her, don't do it again.
Soon after, Diana went to Berry. He didn't hesitate. Despite Florence being heavily pregnant, despite his own brother welcoming her, he ordered her to leave.
So he came over and he told me, he said, you have to leave. You weren't invited anyway. I was about 7 months pregnant.
The message was clear. Diana's comfort mattered more than Florence's dignity, more than their shared history, more than basic human decency. But perhaps the most telling moment came from Florence herself, captured in a rare audio clip where her pain was audible. Speaking about how Berry Gordy favored Diana, she didn't mince words about the preferential treatment that had destroyed their friendship and ultimately ended her career. Florence Ballard died in 1976 at just 32 years old, broke and forgotten by the industry she'd helped build. When Diana showed up to the funeral, the crowd booed her, a final, devastating judgment on a relationship that had started with teenage dreams and ended in tragedy. Diana Ross built an empire on her voice, her image, and her absolute refusal to share the spotlight. Along the way, she made enemies of some of music's greatest talents, women who might have been her allies, her sisters, her friends. Instead, they became cautionary tales about what happens when ambition meets insecurity, when talent meets politics, when the girl from the projects never forgets that there's only room for one at the top. These 7 feuds tell the story of a woman who conquered the world but couldn't conquer her own need to be the only star in the sky. In the end, Diana Ross got everything she wanted: fame, fortune, and a legacy that will last forever. But the cost was measured in broken relationships, bitter rivalries, and a trail of talented women who learned the hard way that in Diana's world, there could only be one supreme. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.